One thing everyone knew going into the 2021 NFL season was that the team records will look different with the schedule expanded to 17 games. Now, since expansion, a lot of teams have come out on top, and some at the bottom. If you want to know which teams are on our list of the top 10 absolute worst NFL teams since expansion, stick with us. Anyways, let's get right into it. First up at number 10, the 2020 Jacksonville Jaguars with 1-15. Okay, so a lot of people can argue that the worst team in the NFL during the 2020-21 season was actually the New York Jets. But the fact remains that the Jacksonville Jaguars finished with just one victory and lost 15 games back-to-back. It's just not a good look. Not to mention, the team had a negative 186-point differential for the season, with an unfortunate 19.1 PPG, 326 YPG on the offense, and 30.6 PPG and 417.7 YPG on the defense. Even worse, they're the only team on this list to break 300 points on the offense, so it's just going to get worse and worse as we go. Anyway, we can only hope that their new head coach, Urban Meyer, will be able to help the Jaguars avoid a repeat of their performance in 2021 and beyond. Next up at number 9, the 2010 Carolina Panthers with 2-14. Carolina started out pretty well, winning 7 games in their very first season in 1995, and then even making it to the NFC Championship game in year 2. But they hit a few rough patches after that. The team finished 1-15 in their 2001 campaign, but even though they had a 2-14 record in 2010, that's the season that made it to the list. Why? Well, they literally hit an all-time franchise worst 212-point differential. And that's not all. They reached an 18-year low 196 points too, scored under the direction of QBs like Jimmy Clausen, Matt Moore, and Brian St. Pierre. Those three combined managed to score 21 interceptions and just 9 touchdowns. On the bright side, the Panthers were able to secure an overall number 1 pick 1 year later in the 2011 NFL Draft, which they used on quarterback Cam Newton, who later won league MVP honors in 2015 and even took the franchise to Super Bowl 50. Coming up at number 8, 2011 St. Louis Rams at 2-14. After what were two of their worst seasons in franchise history in 2008 and 2009, the Rams managed to turn things around by winning 7 games in the 2010 season. Unfortunately, the winning streak didn't last. They quickly plummeted the following year, finishing dead last in scoring offense at 12.1 points per game and number 31 overall in total offense at 283.6 yards per game, making the 2011 season for the Rams see one of their worst offenses in the NFL. The St. Louis offensive allowed a league-high 55 sacks. Not to mention, the Rams managed to perform just 9 touchdown passes and 7 rushing touchdowns scored all season, both of which ranked dead last in the entire league. Also, owing to injury, the Rams' second-year quarterback Sam Bradford missed the final 6 games of the season. Following up at number 7, the 2009 Detroit Lions with 2-14. Compared to their underwhelming previous seasons, the 2009 Detroit Lions actually showed a little bit of improvement, most notably on the scoreboard. For one, they managed to finally snap out of their 19-game losing streak in Week 3 with a 19-14 victory over Washington, and they followed it up with a pretty thrilling 38-37 victory over the Browns in Week 11, which had everyone hanging on the edge of their seats in anticipation. They also showed some improvement on the defense side too, but those were their only 2 victories the entire season. Modest improvements just aren't enough, especially considering that the team still finished last in the NFL, not only in the scoring category at 30.9 PPG, but also in the total defense category with 392.1 yards per game. Not to mention, they also posted a league-worst -18 turnover margin. And if you thought that was bad, wait till we talk about their 2008 season. Still, the team's rookie QB, Matthew Stafford, showed glimpses of the talent that would, later on, help Detroit make the playoffs. But unfortunately, in Week 11, the number 1 overall pick in the 2009 NFL Draft suffered a season-ending injury, and the Lions ended up finishing the year on a 6-game straight losing streak with Stafford on the sidelines. Moving on to number 6, the 2008 St. Louis Rams at 2-14. In their 2008 season, the Rams were absolutely blown out in each of their first 4 games by an average score of 37-11. And while there was a glimmer of hope in weeks 6 and 7, where they boasted back-to-back wins, then St. Louis ruined it all for themselves with 10 straight losses to finish the season. So what happened? Well, one thing was for sure. They were equally bad on both sides of the ball, ranking second to last in both scoring offense and scoring defense, with 14.5 and 29.1 points per game respectively. Even worse, St. Louis's offense allowed 7 whole defensive touchdowns, which actually tied for the most in the NFL. Now for number 5, the 2016 Cleveland Browns at 1-15. In 2016, the Browns were actually on the verge of becoming the second NFL team ever to finish a season 0-16. After 14 back-to-back losses to begin the season, the team finally broke through with a 20-17 win at home over San Diego in Week 16. But then they lost again in the season finale to none other than the hated Steelers, finishing with a franchise-worst 1-15 campaign. Still, even with such historically bad victory totals, it's worth pointing out that the Browns actually performed much better than their record would suggest. Cleveland faced one of the league's toughest schedules and fought hard in several close losses, including 3 by less than a field goal. But at the same time, with just a single victory to their name in 2016, the Browns obviously had to make the list. Up next at number 4, the 2007 Miami Dolphins, also with 1-15. The Dolphins were actually the one franchise in NFL history to ever complete an undefeated season, and yet the very same team tried to make history the other way around in 2008, when they almost became the very first team since the 1976 Tampa Bay Bucks to ever go winless for an entire year. Thankfully for them, they escaped that fate because of an overtime victory over the Baltimore Ravens in Week 15. Still, Miami allowed a franchise record of a shocking 437 points and ranked number 30th overall in the league in scoring defense. Their offense wasn't so good either. With QBs like Cleo Lemon, John Beck, and Trent Green, they combined that year to throw only 12 touchdown passes. Moving on to number 3, the 2009 St. Louis Rams and another 1-15. Oh, 2009. The Rams are the only team on this list to appear 3 whole times, and out of all their bad seasons, this was hands down the absolute worst of all. First of all, they literally ranked dead last in scoring offense, with a pretty sad 10.9 points per game. Also, they managed just 175 points that entire season, which was just 35 points more than the Seattle Seahawks in 1992, the absolute worst scoring offense in league history. The Rams were one of just 4 teams since 2002 to win 1 or fewer games. They threw 21 interceptions and 12 touchdowns, were shut out twice, scored 10 or fewer points 9 times, and were outscored by 261 points, a franchise record. Coming up at number 2, the 2017 Cleveland Browns at 0-16. With 0 wins all season, the Browns were all but guaranteed a spot on the top 2 of this list. The weird part is that Cleveland actually had multiple opportunities to win throughout. In fact, the Browns went 4-0 in exhibition games, which is noteworthy mainly for the striking contrast it provided to the regular season. Statistically, the Browns were far from terrible. Cleveland ranked in the top half of the NFL in total yards allowed per game, led by a unit that ranked number 7 in the NFL in rushing defense, second in yards allowed per carry, and was the only team on this top 10 list to finish better than 15th in either total defense or offense. Cleveland also showed promise on offense, ranking 24th with 208.9 yards per game, but at the same time, a league worst 28 interceptions on the other hand prevented several potential scoring drives and set up the opposition with far too many short fields. As a result, the Browns scored the fewest points in the league, while allowing more than every other team but one. Finally at number 1, the 2008 Detroit Lions. The Lions were the very first NFL team to ever go winless since the league expanded to a 16-game regular season schedule, owing primarily to a defense that ranked dead last in points, yards allowed, interceptions, wins and flirted with the NFL record for most points allowed in a single season, which, by the way, they managed to avoid by a humiliating distinction of 16 points. The offense wasn't any better, ranking 27th in the league in scoring, 30th in total offense, surrendering 52 sacks, more than all but one other team, and rotating 5 quarterbacks with a combined passing rating of 71.3 and 19 interceptions. The 2008 Lions now have a company in the modern winless club, thanks to the 2017 Browns. But the fact remains that not only is Detroit the worst team since the 2002 expansion, but they're also arguably the worst team in NFL history. And that's a wrap for this video. Were you shocked by any of the teams on this list? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.